Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. My name is Alan Kiesler, and although I'm in America, I'm always thinking about Pakistan. And I was also especially thinking about Peru and about Ricardo Gonzalez and his wonderful book, Contact from Planet Apu, which I have been reading and learning a lot from. So I'm sharing that information with you about the Apunians, the people from the planet Apu in the Alpha Centauri star system. So we will begin with a little zikr and a little reading, spiritual reading first, and then we will turn to Ricardo Gonzalez and the Apunians. First we will do a little zikr and then I will read something. Allah, 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 Allah. Adonai, 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 Adonai. Toi, ni 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 toi, ni. So I will begin with reading a little from Hadi Rizvi's book, Space. I've read from this before, and in my opinion, this is just like a transcendental book. Beautiful poetry with very, very deep ideas. So we are reading about the people in the world today who are mostly controlling the world through their media, and so talking about them, Hadi Rizvi Sahib writes, "They fight the criminal, not the crime, for such is the tutored paradigm. There are those who air the news with vested aims and vested views. In subtle ways they misrelate the Satan's will they propagate. They mold the facts to a theme consistent with the devil's scheme. The mass, with neither time nor facts, believe the findings press redacts." Sorry, we lost the signal there. Anyway, I will conclude the reading there from Hadi Rizvi Sahib's book Space. This is a very, very important point. We must understand this, that the news that we are taught, not only in the media, but the views that we're taught in schools and universities and in so many different institutions, they're not true. It's actually the devil's scheme. So we need to understand that one point, and then we can be open to learning the truth, which is quite different from what we have been taught. So, one very good source of information is people like Ricardo Gonzalez. Again, I was just cut off. We don't have very good signal here, but I will continue. So, we have read about Ricardo Gonzalez, who was a young man when he was contacted by extraterrestrials, and his first physical contact with Antarel, the being from planet Apu in the Alpha Centauri star system, was on August 30th, 1997. Before that, he had had telepathic contact. He had received messages from Antarel, and Antarel had told him at a certain time, go up on the roof and look, and he Ricardo and his family members saw extraterrestrial craft, and gradually other friends and neighbors and even newspaper reporters also were told that UFOs will appear at a certain time, and they did. So in this way, gradually the Apunians were contacting Ricardo. So then he actually physically met Antarel on August 30th, 1997. And this occurred in the desert of Chilca in Peru. So we read about this the last time we had a discussion about meeting our space family, and we described Antarel. So this first contact that Ricardo had is recorded in his book in detail, and at that time he was physically invited onto the spacecraft of Antarel, and he said he was afraid. He got scared of this idea of going onto a spaceship from another planet, and he couldn't face the situation. He was too frightened by it. But Antarel understood that that Ricardo was a little disturbed by this and frightened by the idea of actually walking onto a spacecraft from another planet. And so Antarel said, okay, don't worry. He sent him a telepathic message saying that they would wait until Ricardo was ready to meet them on their vehicles to actually. So when I was 9 years old, I was a child, and I wasn't afraid the first time I met my main extraterrestrial contact. And I just happily climbed on board their craft. But Ricardo was a little older than me, and perhaps he had been influenced by other sources of information. So Ricardo writes about how he and some of his friends, a young group of friends, started meeting regularly because they were having experiences of seeing UFOs, and Ricardo had actually met Antarel, although he was afraid of climbing onto his spaceship. So this group of young people used to meet regularly, practically every weekend, sometimes in the desert, sometimes in the mountains, and they began learning about sightings. They learned about the fact that there are many satellites in the sky. Perhaps you have seen them. I've seen them several times, not even looking for them, but just seeing there are satellites that are very reflective of the sunlight, and so we can see them quite easily at night with our eyes. And they're not extraterrestrial craft. And of course, airplanes. So Ricardo and his friends gradually learned to distinguish between these other things traveling in the sky or space and the actual extraterrestrial craft. And they found many times they began seeing, for example, Ricardo writes, objects that would travel in triangular formations and then then they would break off and shoot in different directions. So in this way, the extraterrestrials were gradually preparing them and training them for more and more contact. And sometimes they had even strands of material, silver strands, that would fall onto their group from the spacecraft. So in this way, they gradually became more accustomed to these extraterrestrial beings. And as I said previously, Peru was obviously one of the areas that was specially chosen by this particular group of extraterrestrials from Apu. And so there were many, gradually hundreds and thousands of people. And in fact, at a later date, as a result of these many sightings, which were reported by the press, photographs were taken, the people of Peru, in Lima, the capital of Peru, in fact, a poll was taken, and 70% of the population believed in extraterrestrials and believed that they were visiting, and that they were making their craft at least visible to people. So this was a huge accomplishment, you might say, because we know, as we were just reading from Hadi Rizvi's book, there are forces in the world, satanic forces, that are trying to prevent us from understanding the truth. They don't want us to know about extraterrestrials. So therefore, the beings from Apu, our cousins, you could say, from Apu, they have designed this program to gradually help us understand the reality about extraterrestrial life. So I will just conclude by saying a little bit about this program, because there are many different groups of extraterrestrials and they may have some variations in their programs. But the Apunians, they have 4 steps, and this is important to understand, 4 steps in preparing us for contact, and you may experience this also. First is the call of contact, which is usually a telepathic call. You may just feel something in your heart or your mind that somebody is calling to you or speaking to you, or you may have dreams that seem to be related to some sort of extraterrestrial presence. So this way they're beginning the contact, calling through extraterrestrial communication via telepathy and via dreams. And then after we have been prepared somewhat from that first stage, the second stage is actual experiences of contact, in which we may see UFOs and eventually physically meet. This is happening. It has already happened to hundreds of thousands of people on this planet. Maybe millions, I don't know how many, but definitely not just tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And the second stage is actually experiencing contact, which begins with seeing the craft and then actually meeting the extraterrestrials. And then the third stage is receiving information from them. This is actually, their purpose is not just to contact us, but to share some important information. Because, as we were reading from Hadi Rizvi's book, and as most of you probably are well aware, the information that we receive from the mass media, especially international mass media, but also local mass media, is often very, very twisted, and it actually prevents us from understanding the truth. So there's a lot of information that we need to understand, which the extraterrestrials are sharing with us, and that's the third step. And finally, the fourth step is to distribute that knowledge. So that's what I'm doing now. That's what Ricardo is doing, and many people are doing. We are trying to share with you the knowledge or the information that we have received from extraterrestrials. So this is about all I'm going to talk about, the information of the Apunians, but I will continue this the next chance I get, because I'm being called often to teach. I've not been able to have any. This is actually the first day. Even yesterday, I did have to go and teach, but I had a short class. It was right here in Esparto, so I could have a short class. Otherwise, sometimes I go to some other town to teach, so I have to leave earlier, so cannot even have a minute or two. But please, try to understand this point. This is happening more and more, and you should be ready for it also. So please pray and meditate, and try to open your mind and open your hearts to the presence of extraterrestrials, and gradually to actually experience their presence and learn from them and share that knowledge with others. So I will conclude that here, and I will see whatever questions or comments we may have. Oh, trying to go back up to, I see there are already a lot of comments. Khan Anwar Khan says salam, and Mahabhati says wa alaikum salam. Peace be with you all. And we have some mashallahs from Malik Tanvir, and GSM Ikram Khan. All right. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Kaleem Khan Sahib says. So I'm just going to skip over these hellos and, sir, how are you? I'm going to see if we have any questions, especially about extraterrestrials, about our space sisters and brothers. They really are literally our cousins, you might say. We are actually related, genetically related to some of the extraterrestrial groups. So Humayun Taimur Mirza, what is name, Alan Kiesler? Like what I mean, what is mean your name? What does my name mean? Well, Alan is actually Scottish name, I think. So it means something like fair or noble. It's similar to the Urdu or Arabic name Sharif. And Kiesler evidently is a German name, and I'm not sure exactly what it means, actually. So I keep getting my signal cut off, but I'm going to try to continue. I hope I can read some of the comments here. Sardar Zoheb writes, Baba Jan, kaise hain? Umeed rakhta hoon khair khair आकित से होंगे. हाँ, मैं बिल्कुल ठीक ठाक हूँ, अल्लाह का शुक्र है. So I'm fine. Tahir Yusuf says, free Kashmir, free Kashmir, free Kashmir. Yes, I have explained many times, Kashmir will become free. An arrangement will be made, inshallah, that Kashmiris will be given internal autonomy, and the external affairs of Kashmir will be administered jointly by India and Pakistan. That sounds quite amazing and unbelievable at this point, but I believe that's what will happen because, as I've told before, this about 20 years ago and more, I received this information from a great Sufi master, and I even wrote this to General Musharraf and to Prime Minister Bajpai in 2001, this proposal. So it will happen, inshallah, don't worry. All right, Carla Rickman, hello. Hi, Carla. And Tahidullah Shah Kahakel says, Assalamu alaikum, how are you? I like your ideology, can I meet you? Yes, you can meet me. You're very welcome. You can come to Esparto. And I hope, I don't know where you are, if you're in Canada, and you can make it to Halifax, Canada, I hope to go there next week, inshallah. So you can come to meet me right now. You can come today, or we can arrange for you to come to Esparto and meet me here. Otherwise, in Nova Scotia next week, inshallah. Or next time I come to Pakistan. I don't know when it will be, but just wanted to let you. I'm sorry, the signal keeps getting lost. I keep getting cut off and then coming back, but maybe I will conclude this then because the signal is weak and I don't know why, if it's the weather or what it is, but we're having a lot of trouble with the signal. I'm going to try to get a better system so we don't suffer this way in trying to have these live chats. Okay, thank you. Saima Nafis says Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam ji, and Waqas Ahmed says very nice. Thank you very much. I will not be able to give a class, or maybe only a very short class tomorrow, but on the weekend we will be having classes Saturday, at least, not Sunday, but on Saturday I will have a class in Urdu, a live Urdu chat, which we could talk about more about Pakistan. Okay, thank you all very, very much. Allah Hafiz.